All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy it. So today we go back to an episode where I talk about choice. And to me, this is a very, very big thing. I literally just had a meeting with a client this afternoon and we were talking about choice. Now, a lot of people want to work forever if they can. I'm probably one of them. I love what I do. But the reality is, it is nice to have the choice at some point in your life to not have to work, or to work less, or to change the type of work you do. Really, just to have the choice to do anything you want and not have to, and essentially not to be in a position where you have no other choice, but just to keep working. And in this episode, I go through the power of this and the powerful conversations that I have with my clients when we're talking about this topic, because usually one of my first questions are, when would you like to retire? What does retirement look like to you and your partner? And when I'm sitting with a couple or with an individual and we're discussing these things, it's hard. Of course, no one has a crystal ball, and yes, things change. Not every retirement plan, probably most of them don't go to plan because things change. People change their goals. They change what they want to do. They decide to retire earlier, later, on more income, less income. But what I always say is it's good to have something to work towards instead of nothing. And having a plan and having control and having the choice is so powerful. So let's go back to this episode, and I hope you enjoy it. And I really encourage you to reach out to me or to an advisor or someone that can help you maximize your choice. The other thing is that there's many different things that can pop up in this scenario. For example, as we get older, our health changes. So someone might be in a perfect job. They might love it. Everything might be amazing. But suddenly their workmates change, or the ownership of the business changes, or the industry changes, and suddenly they're not enjoying work anymore. Or maybe the industry, maybe they're made redundant, and that type of industry wants someone younger, for example. Maybe technology comes in and changes the way things are done, and that person doesn't enjoy that type of role anymore. You don't know what's going to happen. Your partner might have health issues. You might have health issues. You might have grandkids you want to spend more time with. Having the choice to retire earlier is so powerful, because I've seen it firsthand with clients that get to an age and decide to retire earlier, much earlier than they wanted to. But because they've worked so hard, they're able to retire earlier. They've got the choice. And they work because they want to, not because they have to. And again, that in itself is so powerful, because it just means that if somebody doesn't want to do a particular job, or they don't want to work for a particular person, they can literally quit and the next day start doing volunteer work. They can decide to work in something completely different. They can choose to work 1 day a week instead of 5 days a week. Having that choice gives you the ability to do that. Now let's talk about not having a choice. And I can tell you what that looks like, because I hear it from people firsthand. And not having the choice, for example, to retire is hard. It's very hard from a mental health perspective, from a financial perspective. It's very, very difficult when somebody wants to stop working, or they want to reduce their work, or they have to reduce their work, or they have to stop working for whatever reason, and they can't afford to financially, because they just assumed that everything was going to be okay. And having no choice can have, as I said, a severe impact on someone's mental health, on someone's physical health, and it can impact relationships. And suddenly someone that's spent 50 years of their life, 40 years of their life working hard, working very, very hard in a full-time job, is not able to enjoy the last years of their life, or they're not able to see the fruit of their hard work. And to me, I get upset when I see situations like that, because all it would have taken is some financial advice or some guidance or some direction. And that person, if they had received something like that 5, 10, 15 years ago, would be in a much different position. Of course, when they come to me in those scenarios, I can help, of course, but it's what I can do is very limited because we don't have time on our side. Now, moving away from retirement, when I'm talking to someone younger and we're talking about savings goals, investing, buying property, having the choice to do things makes a big difference. As an example, I met someone the other day that would like to buy a farm, and they would like to buy this farm in about 10 years' time, and they're not exactly sure if they do want to buy the farm. They're not sure if they buy it, they're going to move into it, or what the story is. And the idea was and we essentially worked out that person would like to have the choice to buy that farm in 10 years. And through that, a strategy, for example, could be building an investment strategy or a savings strategy, or having something in place, working towards some type of goal to have the choice to buy that farm in 10 years. And it could be going on a holiday as well. That's another very big example. Now, when I talk to clients, holidays come up a lot as a goal. And again, it's hard to predict what holiday you want to go on in 12 or 24 or 36 months. But if you had a strategy in place and an element in your budget to help you save for holidays, you're able to save for regular holidays. For example, let's say somebody wants to travel. They don't know exactly where, but they have an idea that they want to do some small trips here and there, maybe a big trip every couple of years. And as an example, we might work out that, hey, let's set a goal to save $5,000 a year for travel. And again, you may not spend $5,000 every year, but at least you've got the choice. You might choose to skip a year of travel. In the next year, you might spend $10,000 and do a bigger trip. But the whole point is to have the choice. You can see the message, and I'm sure you can see, you've probably worked out the angle that I'm coming at here. And it's just about having the choice to do things. Because when you've got the choice, you suddenly feel a lot more free financially, and you feel like that you can make decisions. Another thing is having the choice to do things, whether it's to retire or buy a property or go on a holiday. It actually helps you from a financial perspective in other areas. As an example, when I'm working with a client and we are working towards a really good budgeting strategy, and they've built up their savings and they can see their savings is growing and they can see that they're going somewhere, it actually builds a lot of momentum, and it actually creates a lot of motivation, because suddenly that couple can look at their account and think, wow, we're actually saving money. Like, we never thought we'd ever have this much in savings. Well, we thought we could, but we didn't know if it was possible. And when someone can actually see savings or investing or something there, it actually unlocks other possibilities. And suddenly something which seemed almost impossible seems easily achievable, and other goals are created from there. And that's something I see regularly with my clients. When we set one goal, we work towards that, and then from there, the next goal sort of becomes a lot more easier to grasp, a lot more realistic, because it's like, wow, if we could do this, we could do this. And again, having the choice, having that choice factor, it just it creates that motivation. It creates that positivity in a way, because a couple's achieving a goal together or goals together, and they can see that whatever they're doing is actually working and that they're on the same page. Another big thing is when you've got the choice to do things. So when you've got savings, when you're investing, when you've got things there and you're working towards your main goals, like the goals that you can say care about the most, and if you can see that you are going to achieve them, then you're also more likely to create new goals, different goals, things that you never thought you'd even be trying to work towards. And secondly, it actually makes you a lot more confident to take risk, because if you are you've got this money aside for X, Y, and Z, and you know that these are going to be achieved, but you find that you still have funds available after that, or you've got excess savings essentially, or surplus, that you can take risks with that money. You can either create new goals, or just naturally you'd feel a lot more comfortable taking risks with those funds, because you know that if this doesn't work out, or if it doesn't work out as well as you'd like it to, at least your other goals are on track. You're on track for your goals, and that the other goals are most likely going to still be achieved. As an example, when I talk to a client, just going back to retirement, when we work out that retirement's possible, they can retire on X amount at the age of 60, and that the funds are going to last them this number of years. If they know that's sorted, whether it's through a property portfolio or through superannuation or a combination of that, for example, and they still have other money left over, then they feel confident taking risks with that money, or investing it in different ways, or doing something different, because they know that, look, this is different. Like this, even if this money was to disappear, and obviously that's not the goal, but even if it was to disappear, the other goals are still taken care of, because there's the choice to still do the other things. So you can tell I get very excited about this topic, and I think it's because for me as an advisor for years, I talk about goals and I help people work towards those goals. But I know, and I say this to my clients, that nothing is ever perfect. Nothing ever works out exactly how it's intended to. Life changes, goals change, intentions change, priorities change, the world changes, income changes, health changes, family changes. There's so many things. And there's always going to be a bit of a variance here or there. But having a plan is better than having no plan. And having choice is better than having no choice. So I hope this video prompts you to think about whether you are working towards your goals, and whether you are giving yourself options and choices in the future. And if not, touch base, message me. I get lots of messages with questions regularly. People wanting to just have a chat. I'm always happy to have a discussion on the phone, even a 15-minute phone chat, just to talk about your situation. But just if there's anything I want to send out today, and if there's any, you can say, action item I'd like to give you, is to think about what your goals are, and to think about whether you're working towards those goals, whether you have a plan to work towards those goals, and whether you're actually following it. And if not, you're at the risk of not having the choice to do things when you want to, or when you'd like to. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.